Segregation started early in America. After the Civil War, African American people set up their own schools, many of which were underfunded, but the white government would not give them money to improve because they feared that if blacks were given a better education, they would question white supremacy. But blacks still wanted a good education. Mary McLeod Bethune was an activist for civil and women's rights. She believed that education provided the key to racial advancement. She founded the Daytona Normal and Industrial Institute in Florida. The landmark case of Plessy v. Ferguson set up the precedent for separate but equal conditions for whites and African Americans. But that was not always the case. Blacks always got the short end of the stick, and nothing was equal for anyone. Segregation of blacks and whites was not just in public places, but it went as far as in the military. In World War I, African Americans were in different squads as white people, but they had white officers. Schools were no different. It took a lot to get a colored boy or girl into a white school, especially due to people's protests. In the trial of Sweatt v. Painter, Sweatt applied to a law school and was denied because of his Negro status. In this case, he was offered to attend a black law school that did not have the same conditions as the University of Texas Law School. The courts agreed with Sweatt, and he was admitted to the school due to Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. This made the courts have to re-examine the case of Plessy v. Ferguson, which set a precedent for the separate but equal conditions. The trial of Brown v. Board of Education started the desegregation of America. Little Linda Brown had an all-white school just down the street from her, but she had to walk 1 mile to get to her school. Her parents took to the courts after she could not get in, and tried to get her into the school. And because of Thurgood Marshall, they won the case and ruled that separate but equal is not equal. Other people like Rosa Parks were making efforts to gain civil rights when she refused to give up her seat to a white man in the Montgomery bus boycott. In Little Rock, Arkansas, 9 students were chosen to attend a formerly all-white school. There they met some problems. Governor Orval Faubus sent in National Guards to keep the 9 black students out of the school because he did not want desegregation. In retaliation, President Eisenhower sent in federal guards to protect the teens from the National Guard and from the protesters. After the desegregation, most black students took a test to see their mental ability, and the ones that passed went to previously white schools. One was Ruby Bridges, who went to a white school by herself, and most of the other students left because their parents didn't like a black student. In 1968, a great man named Martin Luther King Jr. is killed for his belief of equality for everyone, and his belief that one day we will all be equal. The idea of equality became a thing in everyone's eyes after he was killed, and that's why so much desegregation was done after he died. The end of segregation did not happen overnight. It was a long-awaited thing for all African Americans. After Martin Luther King Jr. fought for equality, schools became more integrated, and today that's why we live in a world where everyone has a chance of equal education, and no one is discriminated against because of their race, whether they are white, black, or Hispanic.
We can't be oblivious. We are not ignorant.